Welcome to episode 2 of the Askem Studios Wedding Podcast. I'm Todd Widows, and we have the lovely
Kelley Widows.
That's right, Kelley Widows is in the house. So this is a wedding podcast where we not just talk about like things from the videography end, but we like to talk to different vendors, and we talk about the services that are offered, so couples actually have a good idea of how to properly plan for their wedding day. So today's guest, we're very excited.
Yay.
We have Stacy Burleson from Burlinson's Big Day Events. Stacy, can you introduce yourself, please?
Hey, good morning. Happy Wednesday, loves. Stacy here, and look, the dog's already not agreeing with this, so I apologize.
That's okay. We have a gigantic horse of a dog, and luckily he's sleeping in our daughter's bed right now because that's what he does whenever she's at school. So, so Stacy, we had reached out to you about bringing you on, and so we have had, I think it was we've not personally met before today, like this, but our companies have worked alongside each other. I think 2 times.
Yeah, you two actually worked with my lead planner Mazana last year, I believe it was last fall, and then I had the pleasure of working with Gabriel and Emmanuel March of this year.
So we keep crossing, or like ships crossing paths, but we never form. We're not collided. We have not collided yet.
I don't think we're wanting to collide. That's such bad imagery.
Anyway,
I think I'll keep the Zoom relationship going. This video can work really well for me right now.
Can you tell us about how you got started?
So it's actually interesting because I come from a financial background. That was actually my profession for 21 years as a financial planner. And I did weddings on the side as my de-stressor. Yes, I know that sounds very, very strange, but weddings were literally my de-stressor. And so I helped friends, family members, with their coordination and help plan their wedding. The strangest thing in the world is seeing back in the day, again, I'm going to date myself a little bit, was when you had wedding announcements in the newspaper. And I saw for the first time ever, and it was the most uncomfortable thing, mistress of ceremonies, seeing mistress in front of my name really turned me 3 shades red. It was so embarrassing, even though I know it wasn't in that context. So, but the more I started doing it, the more I fell in love with it. And my husband was like, babe, you're just so much happier. The cheesy grin that you're witnessing right now and my couples get to witness truly does not leave my face. And so in 2017, I worked with a DJ, helping his business out. It just, was set up and stuff like that. We were at a winery, and after we had set up, there's this poor girl running around with her, like a chicken with her head cut off, and just totally frazzled. And I just said, hey, since we're finished, do you mind if I go see if she needs any help? And come to find out, the bride had hired somebody from her work and a friend from work to be her coordinator, and she was just totally lost, totally lost. So I stepped in and just helped get things going and finalized. And at the end of the night, the mom tipped me very, very well, and said, if you don't do this full time, you really need to get into it. And that's when the wheel started spinning. And so in 2017, I decided to bite the bullet, and Burlison's Big Day Events was born. I will say I only spent 5 minutes on the name, so it's not very original at all. But it fits me. What you see is what you get, and it's just literally been a godsend. It really has been a de-stressor, and I truly love every aspect of it.
So when you had first started out in 2017, and also full disclosure, I had talked to Emmanuel, ahead of time, and I was like, I'm going to have Stacy on the podcast, and he was like, you mean the super planner? So your reputation definitely precedes you. But I was wondering, back in 2017 when you really kicked off, how was it as far as marketing? How hard or how easy was it to get into the wedding industry?
Strangely enough, it wasn't. And I say that, don't get me wrong. You definitely have your struggles. But I think coming from my background in, I've always been a business savvy person. So having that niche, the financial side of it as well, being able to budget and plan and, and work accordingly, and my sales techniques, all truly helped me to launch my business. I'm not shy in any aspects whatsoever. I always tell my couples that wedding planners are chameleons. We have to be able to adapt to every type of personality, to every type of situation. And yes, while my personality is, this big, I know how to taper that down, and that is truly a sales read, and you always want to have the best fit for you, because you don't want to change who you are per se, but you also know after meeting a couple that you could really be a benefit to their day. So sometimes you do have to adjust. So for me, jumping into this business full time, it wasn't as hard of a transition as possible. It's getting your foot in the door, meeting the right people, making those right connections, building those relationships. I mean, Emmanuel said it best, it's the day is planned around my couple and their VIP, but it also takes into account all of my professionals, because it's all of us that make a day successful, not just myself. And it's important to me that everybody is comfortable and everybody has what they need in order to succeed that day.
So just kind of like leading into that a little bit too, I know for Todd and I, like whenever we show up for a wedding, we were always feeling like we didn't, like everybody knew each other, like the vendors, like all of the, like the photographer had this great relationship with, the couple, and Todd and I are just like, why don't we have that? Like we were so jealous because, majority of the time photographers are able to, do like an engagement shoot or something like that. So they've already spent like a little bit of like quality time, so to speak, with the couple. And of course for videography, that's just not something that is a typical thing to do. So we started doing like consultations and things like that. But how important do you think it is for the couples to, for a day to really be just the best it could possibly be, for the couples to really kind of get to know some of these vendors that they're going to be spending like all day with? How important do you think that is?
It's critical, in all honesty. And more so, I think, from the aspect of photo and video, because you are with them from, as soon as you get on site until the very last moment. And I tell my couples that your wedding day is a production. It literally is. I don't know if you ever did plays, all through high school or college or anything like that, but from the moment they wake up in the morning until I tuck them away in their car at night, there's somebody in their face. And they have to perform, and it's very exhausting if you're not used to performing. They're constantly having to be forced to stay in a particular moment, and I want to ensure that it's not forced. I want to ensure that they're truly enjoying their day. So getting to know their photo and video team is of utmost importance. Because again, you're literally having a camera on them 24/7, and like for myself, I'm going to be brutally honest, I hate being on the other side of the camera. I'm very awkward. It bothers me. So I'm like, shoot my hands. My hands are pretty, just shoot me, pinning on the boutonniere. I'm good with that. So, but don't get the face. So, and I can only imagine what some of our couples feel like, especially the grooms. Our grooms can be so awkward, and they're not used to that. So building that relationship early, I think, is very critical. Why don't videographers do engagement sessions like video or photographers do? That's what I've always wondered.
Some do. I mean, I think it depends. For example, for like our company, we do have a couple as far as the rehearsal dinners that we're going to be doing this year. We're finding, though, since we've moved from Virginia to South Carolina, we're finding that we get more requests here in South Carolina for the rehearsal dinner as opposed to the actual, like in Virginia. Now, obviously, we still operate in Virginia, and Kelly and I still go up as needed, for weddings. But I don't think we've ever had one question, asked to us about.
No one's ever asked us to come to the rehearsal dinner for, previously until we moved here. But I think, and then I guess the reason that we don't ever do anything like prior to the day or whatever is because videography, I think, is one of those things that people are like, oh, do I need it? Do I not need it? It's definitely one of those, is this really in our budget kind of thing? which is fine. I mean, we find a great value in what we do.
We all do.
Yeah, you don't need to convince us on why we need to be at your wedding. So
we need to be there.
Whether you want it or not, you need us. So
I think out of all the professionals, I think photo and catering are the two like automatic must-haves.
Right.
Well, besides your officiant and venue, of course, but everybody else is like an afterthought.
But I do think that Kelly's right, though. I mean, it seems, and it's not the case with every couple, but it seems like, probably like 70% of our leads, and this is not meant in any derogatory way because it's definitely not, but it seems like video always falls on the bottom scale. And Kelly's right. Like, we do hear a lot in our consultations where like, well, we don't know if we had it in the budget. It's definitely something we wanted. So I'm not saying that it's not important to them, because I definitely think that it is. Obviously, they wouldn't be reaching out, but it always seems though like it does, at least for us, it seems like, like probably like 60-70% is that. But another thing I thought about kicking around, was with like some of our 2023 couples, because 2022 is already pretty well booked up, but trying to offer like almost like an engagement session where it is as you getting closer, it's a session with the couple where it's a kind of like a digital save the date, if that makes sense. So I wanted to ask you though, like with your financial planning background, do you is that something that you have offered post wedding as well, because you have the financial, like as far as like budgeting and stuff like that, or is that something you just strictly keep within the confines of the wedding process?
Yeah, actually, I'm no longer a financial planner, so I don't do it anymore. But okay. I do have it's too much. My husband has his small business, I have my small business, and then to have another, third business, it was just too much. So something had to go, and I chose the financial side of things. But with that being said, I definitely, help. Budget prioritizing is very, very crucial. As you're aware, a lot of times our couples don't know, but they don't really have a budget. They have an idea in their head, but until they really start diving down into it, they're lost. They're totally lost. And so having me start early in the process, I'm able to define that for them. I'm able to set up those boundaries. I'm able to find out what's priority to them, what's important to them, and budget around that accordingly. So that way, if $50,000 is all that their budget is, well, then we take that into account, and we're going to keep them close to that. That's one of the things that I love about having that financial side of things, is that's just an added benefit and value that I bring to the table, because everybody has a budget, and I never want to see my couples go into debt. I don't want them turning to the credit cards. I don't want them taking out personal loans. I want them to start this next chapter of their life totally debt-free without having to worry about it. Focus on buying your house, if that is that next step. Focus on starting that family if that is that next step. But let's not focus on trying to put off your wedding as that next step.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think that that's something that we try to offer as well. And obviously, like I said, I don't want to keep this necessarily focused on us, but I mean as well. But with what we do, we try to eliminate like budget being a barrier. So we don't want to, we go out of our way to try to make sure we're working with couples, because when we're finding out that like the budget, okay, we've got, maybe we could spend 15 to $2,000, we're trying to make sure we're maximizing what we do, within those packages, for couples. But it's important to know, because I mean, a lot of couples, when they're starting out, they, like you said, they don't have an idea of, like what everything's going to cost. So I think that we found just from our consultations that we do that obviously venue is number one, and then, normally it's photography is already booked. And I think that they'll probably have DJ, would you say? So,
I mean, I think then they're looking at the, like, Stacey was saying, kind of like catering and, things like that. I think that in our experience from when we've talked to brides, like videographer, DJ, and possibly even like if they have not already hired a planner, then they're looking at, do we want someone like 30 days out or, things like that. Do you have, Stacey, that was one question I had for you. Do you have a lot of people that come to you like that have already gotten a lot of stuff in place and they're just saying, hey, I just need someone to kind of help us, maybe navigate like the back end of our planning process? Is that services that you offer, or are you like strictly we're going through the whole entire thing with our couples?
Yeah, I wish I can say that I do only full service planning from start to finish, just because that is really where I shine the most, and I get the most time with my couples, so I can add in those magical elements into the day. But no, I do still management is what we call it in the professional world. There is no such thing as a day of. There really isn't, and if a couple is looking for a day of, run, please. This is an investment. A wedding is an investment, and it's a luxury item. It's not something you do every day. And to literally blindly entrust a total stranger to execute your vision, it's just not possible. You're going to end up a little disappointed, to say the least. So yes, I do management as well. I prefer the longer the relationship, the better. I literally just had a 45-day couple reach out to me, and I just executed their wedding, and it is different because you don't have the time to build those relationships, and there's so much more that I know as a professional I could have brought to their day if I would have just gotten to know them a little bit better. Their personalities were just spot on. They were perfect for my business and the type of couple I want to represent. And like I said, not having longer than 45 days would have been ideal, but I'm not going to turn anybody away if it's a good fit. It needs to be a good fit.
I think one of the takeaways that helped us to curate our questionnaire or our consultations because of those relationships that we build out of that. I think we've had numerous couples that have commented after the fact. If you want to work with someone that wants, that really cares about you, wants to get to know you, I think those are good things as a company or as an entity to be taken on, because it is, and it is an investment in the day. Into your lives, you're invited in total strangers, and those personalities need to match up to the couple's personalities. Now, is there ever a case where you've started the process and you were like early, you realized that maybe this wasn't a good fit?
You mean, have I ever had to fire a couple?
Yes. Yeah.
No. So even in my early years, I was picky, and I'm going to chalk that up, because I had a full-time job and I had steady income coming in. So I was never, and I don't want to use the word desperate, but I was never put into a situation to where I had to take a couple because I needed to pay the bills or I needed to take care of my family. So with that being said, I've always been very, very particular. Now, during the initial consultation, I'll be more than happy to say, I really don't feel that I'm going to be the best fit for your day. And then I give them, other individuals to reach out to, other professionals in the area that I truly believe would. So getting to know even other professionals and other planners in the area is important. I do referrals all the time, not necessarily based on budget, but based on personality, because it is key. It truly is key.
Yeah. So I'm just, when you said, have you ever had to like fire somebody? I'm sitting here thinking like, because Todd and I have been trying to be, or really Todd more so than me, but he was like, he's all about these Instagram reels and things like that. And so I'm sitting here and I'm thinking, man, that would be an interesting reel to like be sitting there with the client, just be like, you're fired.
No, and full disclosure, neither Stacy or Kelley and I are trying to sound like it's that, like, no. Oh, well, we're just, I want to put that disclaimer on there because I think that question could be misconstrued on what we're asking,
No, it really comes down to the quality of the day that us professionals are able to provide that couple, and it needs to fit. It truly needs to fit. And if you're not going to fit early on, like for me, for example, I have a process. And from the moment that a couple reaches out to me, I start them through the process. And if they're not willing to embrace my process, that already is a red flag. So my couples are already put to a test as soon as I get an email, because I want to know that they can follow a process, because my process has been flawless. If they can follow the process, then their planning is stress-free, literally stress-free. Things are done weeks in advance, not waiting up until the week of. And I'm able to put that pretty little bow around their day and give them a beautiful day. Our reviews speak for themselves, because those couples chose to follow a process. And that's what I'm looking for. So that's why that initial consultation is, it's really critical. And as I said, I'm okay with saying, I don't think I'm the best fit for you. It's a little trickier when they ask why.
Right.
And you just have to tell them, that I have a process, and I don't think that you're able to embrace, how we do things.
So you're not giving them the old Seinfeld, it's not you, it's me routine.
No. Them. That's the other thing. You have to remember that a lot of these couples have never been married before. They don't know what to expect.
Right.
And so it's educating them along the way as well.
These are not necessarily, I don't want to be like freebie giveaways, but these are insightful for couples, because a lot of couples don't have an idea. Like how many times we'll be getting, I don't know how many times we'll be getting the timeline of like the last minute, so that's one big thing for us, is like, we need to be able to build our day. And, we have,
well, I don't even think it's so much building our day. I think that, especially for, brides, I think that don't necessarily have, that do have planners, but don't necessarily have like a relationship that they've built with those planners. I think that it's a little bit more difficult. So they people automatically think, oh, I only need 10 minutes to put my dress on. It's like, not really. Sometimes you need more than that. It really depends on the bride. Like if you're someone that's like, I'm just going to put it on myself, I'm going to have somebody zip me up, I'm good to go, then yeah, you probably don't need a lot of time for that. But if you're thinking, I want my mom there, I want my sister there, I've got, buttons up the back, I've got, the crochet hook, there can be a lot of different components to that. And then if you're planning on having photos taken during that time process, then you have to allow more than 10 minutes to have that happen. But if you've never been a bride, you don't know this. You just think, I'm just putting my dress on and I'm good to go. And so if you don't have someone that's kind of advising you and saying, hey, you're probably going to need a little bit more than this, then building your own timeline can definitely be a scary process for sure.
What's scary to the vendors as well.
And it does. The timeline always blows my couple's mind. They're like, why are you allotting, 3 hours to get ready and for photos? And it's like, you'll see. It goes back to that education part, because I even, for me, it takes me longer than 10 minutes. And us, girls are high maintenance, ladies are high maintenance. Nothing ever fits right. We tried on our dress when we first got it, bridesmaid speaking, and then it's been tucked in a closet, and we haven't pulled it out since. And, we may have lost a little weight, gained a little weight, our girls are showing more than they should, so, and, then I get a call on my walkie-talkie radio, Stacey, we need you on the bridal suite, type of thing. So it's, it always takes longer than you think. And a timeline, really, in all honesty, it's meant to put everybody's mind at ease, because there's a flow of the day. But in all honesty, it's subjective and it's going to change. It really is. Right. And as long as I've given my pro team the time frame that they need in order to capture what you've been contracted and what the couple wants, then it's a win. What happens in between those 3 hours, I don't care.
Right.
That's for you to walk them through and get that. The only part that's critical for me is the ceremony. In all honesty, that ceremony is on time, and it needs to be absolutely perfect, because there's no do-overs with the ceremony.
So Todd, I think Todd's seen a lot more of the I don't want to say crazy. The word I want to use, I think, is more untraditional or unique to a couple, as far as entrances, and then we've also Todd always really gets a kick out of like when the best man does like a fake first look with the groom actually in a dress. And we've done it like twice, and he thought it was hilarious. He's giving me this look like, what are you talking about? Yeah. Thank you, Stacey. I see. Maybe we should do this more, like we can actually see us. When like through your years, is there anything that like just really stands out that you're just like, I can't even believe that I'm witnessing this right now? Have you ever had anything like that?
Actually, I'm not surprised by any of it, because I encourage my couples to be different. Okay. Tradition flew out the window back in the early 2000s. So again, bring your personalities to the day. You only get one day. You only get this one day. So do you. I have a wedding coming up in June, and literally the groom and the bride, they're having their wedding party stand on opposite sides because they want their friends to be able to see them. Instead of standing behind them. You have your traditional parent swapping sides, which I absolutely love, because I was that bride that had a 9-foot wide aisle, and my parents were literally staring at the back of my head. So when I shed a tear, they didn't see it. When I laughed, they didn't see it. And so I encourage those, because it goes beyond just the couple that day. It's also about their VIPs and who they so chose to be by their sides to represent and witness. They're just not another number to us. They're treated like family that day. So it's very, very important. So absolutely, do you have to have the traditional introductions of best man and maid of honor or matron of honor go first? No. Find that crazy, couple or, individuals that are going to kick off that introduction and knock it out of the ballpark. And then have everybody else follow suit. Step outside of the box, be different, be you, bring your personalities into this day.
We've seen a lot of very, for us, definitely unique entrances. So we've had a bride that was brought in on the front loader of a tractor. We've had a bride that was brought in on a steam engine. I think that as far as entrances, those were, pretty unique. But we've had a whole variation of stuff being whether the end of the night is ending with fireworks, is ending with Chinese lanterns, and that's one thing I think you really kind of hit on right there, is that you can see the uniqueness of those couples coming out with their different, with their different entrances or their different endings, and throughout the day. And I think that's one of the things that we always like to make sure that we ask during our consultations. Okay, are you planning on doing X, Y, Z? Like, I can give you a perfect example. The wedding we did that had the steam engine, that was, that we had, so she was coming in on a steam engine. So she wanted to have drone, the drone coverage of that as it was coming in. Plus we were doing a live stream of the wedding because it was back in the height of the COVID, everything going on with COVID. So we had our hands full, and it literally,
they had bagpipes going on during the ceremony.
That literally came within seconds of falling apart on our end. And luckily, that was our first wedding we ever had a manual at. And thank God we had a manual that day, because I don't know how many times, and I think maybe, divine intervention comes into play. Like, there'll be times that we schedule to have like an extra body with us for additional training, or for, or for whatever the case may be. And those always seem to be the weddings. Like, thank God we had so-and-so there, because that was probably like the most intense I felt, like the ones with the live streams are always intense because it's, a lot of rushing to try to get everything set up. And
and like Stacey said, you can't, it's not like you can go back and redo it.
Right.
If the people at home miss it, they miss it. And we don't ever want that to happen. Yeah. So it's definitely a lot more anxiety for sure.
Well, definitely stressor on me. So, Kelley would tell you, if there's any time I'm definitely high strung during a wedding day, it's right before the ceremony, because I know, like you just said, we don't get to redo that, and if we mess that up, that's even worse, because we're the ones that are, capturing the film of it, so, right. But yeah. So do you find like a common theme whenever couples are reaching out to you Is there always something that happens during your consultation process that you think to yourself, like, this is, like a new trend for this year? Or, I've seen I've seen this trend for 2022 where they're saying like vaping is like the thing to do, and so having like the couples like blow this big plume of smoke,
like vaping at the ceremony
during their photos and stuff like that. It's out west, out in California. It seems to be taking off right now.
Yeah. So no, I actually haven't. Usually initial consultations are always the typical trend is we're starting to feel overwhelmed. We don't want to have to work on our day. We don't want our family or friends to have to work on that day. We're afraid we're going to miss something, that type of thing. You start getting into the nuts and bolts of it once the planning commences. And you're starting to have those conversations with the couple. What do you want for X, Y, and Z, and how do you want to do this, and things like that. I have not had the vaping thing come up yet, so that will now be on my radar. I love couples that want to step outside of the typical cookie cutter, box that weddings, have been placed into. You don't have to do things the same way. I mean, I love when a couple literally wants to do a private dinner, just the two of them. Oh my goodness, I can work in as many quiet moments into the day as possible, but that truly is just them. They don't have to worry about their photo and video professionals. They don't have to worry about me. The only thing they have to worry about is catering coming in to deliver their food. And it's truly just the two of them embracing dinner. I'm starting to get more and more of those, which is wonderful.
We've had maybe one or two that have done that.
A private dinner.
Yeah. Private dinner. So.
But I know the one they ended up not even really eating. Like, I think they got pulled or something like that. Yeah. And so it didn't work out as they had anticipated. But
yeah. And that's always, that is a very, it's definitely a very nice idea to have incorporated into your day. Like, there actually you're mentioning stuff that like we don't even think about. Like, I'm not to piggyback back to the ceremony. Like, I never really thought about the process where, the families are on the opposite sides of each other.
Yeah, I never thought about that either.
So that was actually, as many weddings as we've done, I've never realized it. Like, I just never thought about it,
Yeah.
I throw officiants all the time. I do. I throw officiants. I'm like, wait, what? What's happening? It's like, just go with me.
I've seen the parents switch because of like what Stacey was saying. Like I'd want to see my daughter,
Mm-hmm.
I'd want to see her face during this process. Not that I wouldn't like the other person, but I would want, she's my kid,
Right.
But the whole thing with like having their friends too, like, I kind of would have liked to like seen like Leslie's face when she, like when you and I were getting married and saw the tears rolling down her eyes. Like right. I kind of would have liked that. So.
Well, yeah, and so, even in our consultations, we asked, like, do you plan on being, like, pretty much, what's, normally we give them the traditional layout. Like, normally it's right and left, so we normally walk them through that for our process. But,
maybe we'll mention that to some couples, yeah.
Not to steal your idea, Stacey, but we may actually throw that into our consultation.
It literally did not come from me. I just, like I said, I like for couples to be different. I like for couples to step outside of that traditional box and be okay with it and own it. So, yep.
One of the biggest purposes of this podcast is to help enlighten couples, to have them get to know the personalities of their vendors or potential vendors. So like, it's always a good avenue. To be able to sit down, have a conversation with somebody and create that bond from the get-go, whether that's a 35 to 40-minute phone consultation at the beginning, or whether that's like, them finding this podcast at some point and being like, oh, well, I'm considering hiring this person, and their name comes up, and then they can hear the candidness of this conversation. And so they get to know their potential vendors or either way. So
Stacey, for those couples that, maybe you are, getting into the situation, later in the process or whatever. Is there any advice that you would really give to someone who's like just kind of at the very beginning, if they're not reaching out to a planner or whatever? Obviously, your first advice would be like, well, reach out to a planner. But is there anything that you would just say before they even get started? Like, is there like 2 or 3 things that you would say this is definitely must before you even dive into picking venues and all of that stuff?
Find out what's important to the couple, and I say couple because it's not a bride or a groom, or a bride and a bride, or a groom and a groom. It's not just one of you, it's both of you. Find out what's important to both of you in this one day. Figure out, those priority levels, and set that budget. Have an honest conversation. Figure out if you're going to get support from family members. Take your time. You've entered into this relationship. Let's say you've been, together for 3 years, engaged for 2 years. Sure, you've been together for 5 years, but a wedding planning can be very, very stressful, and it can change the dynamics of who you are as a couple. So don't lose sight of that. Don't lose sight of, why you're doing this in the first place. And remember to take breaks. It's not all about planning. It's also not all about rushing to get to the end game either. You need to remember why the two of you are doing what you're doing to begin with. And through, embrace it, embrace it and then enjoy it and include each other. A lot of times I hear all the time, oh, the groom just wants to know, what time to show up. That's fine. Yeah. That's fine, but I'm going to force them to come out of that shell a little bit more, because again, it's also their day.
And then full disclosure, just for people that are listening to this, I am not playing a sound effect of a cuckoo clock while Stacey is talking. I don't want it to seem like, I don't, she has a cuckoo clock. So, so don't think that I'm adding something in to make it sound like she's nuts. I just wanted to throw that in.
Maybe I should have stopped that. But if you've ever owned a cuckoo, you know how temperamental those things are. so if that thing ever stopped, that's my husband's project.
It just seemed to go off both times you were talking, and I don't want people thinking I'm being like a jerk afterwards and like adding in sound effects to your.
Well, it's obviously clear we've been talking for more than 30 minutes, though.
Right.
It's at least on time.
Right. So, Stacey, obviously people can find you at burlinsonsbigdayevents.com and on Instagram at Burlinson's Big Day and Facebook, Burlinson's Big Day Events. If they wanted to contact you directly, what is a good avenue? I don't want to give your number out over the thing. I'll let you do that, so if you want.
So in all honesty, the best way to reach us is through our website. Or you can email me. My email is not easy whatsoever. So, but it does depict who I am. It's hellolove@burlisonsbigday.com. Burleson can be a little tricky, but if you follow baseball, and here I go again dating myself, I was asked, after I got married, if I was related to the professional baseball player, Burleson, because that was his last name. So that's the spelling of it. But really, through our website is the best course of action.
Stacey, I don't know if you have the same policy that Todd and I do. My guess would be that you do. But, we always tell our couples that, if you have any questions or, any concerns about anything throughout the wedding day, definitely feel free to reach out. We always encourage our couples as well to kind of, talk to any of their vendors about, different ideas that might be available to them or things that, they've seen, experiences and things like that. So I would assume that you probably are in that. Well, with planning, I think you have to.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to be that safety net. I don't want them wondering if something is okay or not okay or any of that. So that's why a planner's here. We are that safety net. And the great thing with my couples is that they literally have access to my calendar. When they come on board, they're given a link right to my calendar, and they can schedule a time to do a Zoom or a phone call, or whatever, or they can even email or text. But they literally have access to my calendar. So anytime that they need me for any reason, they just click on the calendar, schedule their time, tell me what they want to chat about, and it's making it happen.
Stacey, is there any closing remarks that you would like to, throw in for?
Just congratulations to all those that have made it through COVID. That was tough. I truly believe that no couple was meant to be forced to be next to their significant other 24/7. So congratulations if you made it through. Even for this old married person who's been married since 96, I will let you do the math. on that one. It was even tough for us, older together individuals. But if you made it through, then you know that your love is going to last, and just focus on the importance of moving forward and remembering to take those breaks and remembering why you're doing this to begin with. So congratulations and all the happiness to everybody out there who is moving forward with their marriages.
So, Stacey, thank you for joining us today. We're definitely grateful to have had the opportunity to meet, air quotation marks, meet, officially. This podcast can be found at Apple Podcast, iHeartRadio, Spotify, and wherever great podcasts are found. We definitely encourage everyone that is in Virginia or surrounding that are looking for a wedding and event planning to contact Stacy Burleson, and that's Burleson, Burlinson. And that's, burlinsonsbigdayevents.com. And once again, the Instagram is Burlison's Big Day, and the Facebook is Burlison's Big Day Events. So, Stacey, thank you again for coming on. We're grateful to have the opportunity to have had you. Kelly and I would like to say thank you. I'm running out of stuff.
Thank you for the opportunity. It was a pleasure.
Yes, it was very nice to be able to chat with you.
All right. Thank you. All right. Say bye, Kelly.
Bye, Kelly.
Bye, you too.